Captain Lee Hyun-woo stood in his ready room, staring out the thick porthole at the empty space where the Valerian fleet had been destroyed. The battle was over, but he knew this was only the beginning. In the next few hours, he would have to write a report that would change human history forever. First contact with an alien species, check. Hostile intentions confirmed, check. Complete enemy fleet destruction, check. No human casualties, check. It should have felt like a victory, but Lee felt only cold determination. The aliens had attacked his ship without warning, which meant they probably attacked other ships the same way. They were predators, and predators understood only one thing: superior force. A soft chime indicated someone was at his door. Come in. Communications specialist Choi Min Seo entered the room, carrying a data pad with analysis reports. She looked tired but alert, like the rest of his crew after their first real space battle. "Captain, we've finished analyzing the alien computer systems we managed to scan before their ships were destroyed," she said, handing him the pad. "The information is disturbing." Lee read through the data with growing concern. The Valerian Empire controlled 43 star systems with a total population of over 18 billion. They had been expanding aggressively for thousands of years, conquering and enslaving other species they encountered. "They're not explorers," he said quietly. "They're conquerors." "Yes, sir. According to their records, they've destroyed at least 12 other intelligent species completely. The ones they don't kill, they use as slave labor." Lee felt a chill run down his spine. If the Valerians had found Earth instead of running into his patrol ship, they would have tried to conquer humanity's homeworld. Billions of humans would have died or been enslaved. "How long before they realize this fleet is missing?" he asked. "Hard to say, Captain, but based on their patrol schedules, probably within the next few weeks. When this fleet doesn't report back, they'll send another one to investigate." Lee nodded grimly. "And that fleet will be bigger and better prepared." He activated his personal communication system and opened a priority channel to Earth Fleet Command. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the screen a few seconds later, her gray hair and serious expression showing the weight of commanding humanity's space forces. "Captain Lee, you're not scheduled to report for another 6 days. Is there a problem?" "Admiral, we've made contact with a hostile alien species. I'm transmitting full battle records and analysis now." Admiral Chen's expression changed from mild curiosity to intense focus as the data reached her. She was quiet for several minutes while she reviewed the information, and Lee could see her face growing more concerned with each page. 12 ships. "Destroyed in 20 minutes?" she said finally. "Captain, are you certain these readings are accurate?" "Yes, ma'am. The aliens attacked us without warning using advanced energy weapons. Our shields held, and we responded with conventional kinetic and nuclear weapons. Their technology couldn't handle our attack methods." "And you eliminated all survivors?" "Yes, Admiral. I used overloaded interdiction mines to create gravitational distortions that crushed their flagship. No one escaped to report back to their empire." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long time, and Lee could see her thinking through the implications. Finally, she spoke again. "Captain, you may have just saved humanity from extinction. If these Valerians had found Earth first—" "I know, ma'am, that's why I eliminated all witnesses. But we need to prepare for their response. When this fleet doesn't return, they'll send a bigger one." "Agreed. I'm calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. We need to mobilize the entire fleet and begin preparations for a full-scale alien invasion." After the call ended, Lee returned to his bridge where his crew was still working to analyze the battle and prepare their report. The mood was strange, proud of their victory, but worried about what came next. "Captain," Navigator Kim Da-yoon called out, "we've plotted the course the alien fleet took to reach this position. If we follow it backward, we should be able to find their nearest base." "How far?" "About 2 weeks at maximum speed. It looks like they have a major outpost in the Kepler 442 system." Lee thought about this. A preemptive strike against the alien base might buy humanity more time to prepare defenses, but it would also tell the Valerians exactly where the human fleet was located. Captain, Engineering Chief Shin Boram's voice came over the intercom. I've finished analyzing the alien ship debris. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours in some areas, but it has critical weaknesses. What kind of weaknesses? Their ships are designed for energy-based combat. Beautiful, elegant, but not built to handle kinetic weapons or gravitational stress. It's like they've never fought anyone who used physical projectiles. That made sense to Lee. If the Valerians had been conquering species for thousands of years, they probably fought the same way every time. Energy weapons against energy shields, with victory going to whoever had the more advanced technology. But humans had learned warfare on a planet with strong gravity and limited resources. They had been forced to make every shot count, every weapon efficient, every defense practical. Human military technology wasn't elegant, it was deadly. Sir, Tactical Officer Yun Tae-ho reported, I've been running simulations based on the alien technology we observed. If they send a larger fleet, we might have problems. How many ships? If they send 50 or more warships, even our advantages might not be enough. We can probably handle 20 or 30, but beyond that, Lee understood. One human ship had destroyed 12 alien vessels, but there were limits to what even superior technology could accomplish. If the Valerians sent 100 ships, or 1,000, humanity would need more than one patrol vessel to stop them. Set course for Earth, he ordered. Maximum speed. We need to get this information to Fleet Command as quickly as possible. As the UNS Indomitable turned toward home, Lee composed his official report. It would be the first document in human history to describe contact with a hostile alien empire, and it would determine how humanity prepared for the war that was almost certainly coming. Personal log, Captain Lee Hyunwoo, he said into his recording device. Today, humanity learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that our neighbors are hostile, aggressive, and determined to conquer or destroy any species they encounter. He paused, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed friendly and peaceful. The Valerian Empire has been expanding for thousands of years. They have advanced technology and vast resources. They have conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved billions of beings. But today, they learned something important about humans. Another pause as he chose his words carefully. They learned that we don't start fights, but we finish them. They learned that attacking human ships is a fatal mistake. And when their next fleet comes looking for this one, they'll learn that humanity is not just another species to be conquered. Lee ended the recording and returned to watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valerian Empire was planning their response to the loss of 12 warships. They would come in greater numbers and with better preparation, but they would find humanity ready for them. Earth's children had learned to fight in gravity wells and hostile environments. They had mastered the art of making simple weapons devastatingly effective. And they had something the Valerians didn't expect: the absolute determination never to be anyone's slaves. The war between humanity and the Valerian Empire had begun with the complete destruction of an alien fleet. It would continue with humanity, teaching the galaxy that Earth's children were not prey. They were predators, and they were just getting started. Admiral Vextar stood alone on the bridge of his dying flagship. Around him, control panels sparked and emergency lights flashed red in the smoky air. Half his crew was dead, and the other half was trying desperately to keep basic systems running. The Crimson Dominance had taken massive damage from the human weapons, and Vextar knew his ship was living on borrowed time. "Damage report," he called out, though he could see the destruction with his own eyes. Lieutenant Yexkan, one of the few surviving bridge officers, looked up from his station with fear in his large eyes. "Admiral, we've lost main power to weapons. Systems. Shields are down to 15%. Life support is failing on decks 7 through 12. What about communications?" "Still working, sir. Do you want to try contacting the human ship? Vextar thought about this. In all his years of commanding fleets for the Valerian Empire, he had never considered surrendering to an enemy. The Empire always won. Their technology was always superior. Their tactics were always better. But today, everything he believed had been proven wrong. "Sir," called another officer from across the bridge. "The human ship is moving closer. They're targeting us directly." On the main screen, Vextar could see the strange metal warship approaching. It looked even more threatening up close, all sharp angles and heavy armor plating. Scorch marks on its hull showed where Valerian energy weapons had hit it, but the damage was minimal. The ship looked like it could fight 10 more battles without. "Serious problems, Admiral," Lieutenant Yexkin said quietly. "What are your orders?" Before Vexitar could answer, the communication system came alive with a new voice. It was speaking in a language he didn't understand, but the ship's computer quickly provided a translation. "Valerian vessel, this is Captain Lee Hyunwoo of the United Nations ship Indomitable. You are ordered to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your ship." The voice was calm and professional, but there was something in it that made Vextar's blood run cold. It was the voice of someone who had just destroyed 11 warships and was prepared to destroy one more without hesitation. "They want us to surrender," Yexcon whispered. "I heard," Vextar replied. For the first time in his long military career, he was faced with a choice between certain death and the shame of surrender. But as he looked around his ruined bridge and thought about his dead crew members, Vexitar realized that shame was better than extinction. If he surrendered, at least some of his people might live. If he fought, they would all die for nothing. "Open a channel to the human ship," he ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." Vexitar took a deep breath and spoke words he had never expected to say. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Vexitar of the Valerian Imperial Fleet. We surrender. Please don't destroy my ship." There was a long pause before the human captain replied. "Admiral Vexitar, you will order all remaining crew to gather in your main hangar bay. My boarding party will take control of your ship in 10 minutes. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." "Understood," Vextar said, feeling the weight of defeat crushing down on him. But Captain Lee had other plans. Even as he spoke with the Valerian admiral, he was making preparations for something the aliens couldn't imagine. The interdiction mines that had prevented the enemy fleet from escaping were still active, and Lee intended to use them for something more than just keeping ships trapped. "Yoon," he called to his tactical officer, "are all the interdiction mines still operational?" "Yes, Captain. All 12 mines are functioning normally." "Good. I want you to overload them. Set them to create a massive gravity distortion in exactly 3 minutes. Yoon looked confused. "Sir, that will destroy everything in this area, including our ship." "No, it won't," Lee said with a cold smile. "Our shields are designed to handle gravity distortions. Theirs aren't." The truth was that humans had learned to fight in environments that would kill most other species. Earth's gravity was stronger than most inhabited worlds, and human technology was built to handle extreme gravitational forces. Valerian technology, designed for their lighter homeworld, had no such protection. "Captain," communications specialist Choi Min-seo called out, "the alien admiral is asking about evacuation procedures for his crew." "Tell him his crew will be processed according to standard protocols," Lee replied. He didn't mention that there wouldn't be any crew left to process. This was war. And in war, you don't give your enemies a chance to regroup and attack again. The Valerian Empire had attacked his ship without warning and without provocation. They had tried to destroy his crew and his vessel. Lee wasn't going to let them live to tell their empire about human weaknesses or to plan another attack. "All stations, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace," he ordered. "We're leaving in 2 minutes." Admiral Vextar was still trying to organize his surviving crew when the interdiction mines began their final sequence. Deep in the human devices, powerful generators started drawing energy from the fabric of space itself, creating artificial gravity wells that grew stronger and stronger. "Admiral," Lieutenant Yexcon called out in panic. "I'm reading massive gravitational distortions building up around us. The gravity is increasing exponentially." "What?" Vextar spun around to look at the sensor displays. The readings were impossible. The gravity field around his ship was becoming stronger than that of a small planet. "The human ship," another officer shouted. "It's moving away at high speed." On the main screen, Vextar could see the human warship accelerating rapidly away from the battle area. Its engines burned bright as it raced to escape something. "They're leaving us to die," he realized with growing horror. The first effects of the gravity distortion hit the Crimson Dominance like an invisible hammer. The ship's hull, designed to operate in normal space, began to buckle under gravitational forces it was never meant to handle. Metal plates cracked and energy conduits ruptured as the vessel was slowly crushed by artificial gravity. "Emergency. Jump to hyperspace," Vextar commanded desperately. "We can't, sir. The gravity is too strong. Our jump drive can't function in this field." The Crimson Dominance was being torn apart by forces it couldn't resist. The ship's beautiful crystalline structure, which had made it so elegant and advanced, became a weakness as the gravity waves shattered the delicate energy channels and crushed the exotic matter power cores. Admiral Vextar felt the deck tilting under his feet as his ship began to collapse in on itself. Around him, his remaining crew members screamed in terror as they realized they were all going to die. "This is impossible," he whispered, watching his proud flagship being destroyed by invisible forces. How did they do this? He would never know. The answer. The gravitational distortion reached critical levels, and the Crimson Dominance simply ceased to exist, crushed into a ball of super-dense matter that collapsed into a brief artificial black hole before evaporating in a burst of radiation. The UNS Indomitable, now safely outside the distortion field, watched on its sensors as the gravity waves dissipated and normal space returned to the battle area. Where 12 Valerian warships had been, there was now only empty space and scattered particles. "Complete destruction confirmed," reported Tactical Officer Yoon Tai-ho. "No survivors detected." Captain Lee nodded with satisfaction. The first contact between humanity and the Valerian Empire was over, and it had ended exactly as it should. The aliens had attacked without provocation, and they had learned that attacking human ships was a fatal mistake. "Set course for home," he ordered. "It's time to tell Earth that we're not alone in the universe, and that our neighbors aren't friendly." The battle had lasted less than 20 minutes from start to finish. 12 advanced alien warships had been completely destroyed by a single human vessel, and the survivors had been eliminated to prevent them from reporting back to their empire. It was humanity's first victory in interstellar war, but Lee knew it wouldn't be their last. The Valerian cruiser Diamond Edge was trying desperately to escape when 3 railgun projectiles found their target. The ship's pilot, Commander Zexrin, had been flying for 30 years and had never lost a battle. She threw her ship into a spinning dive, using every trick she knew to avoid the incoming death. It didn't matter. The human targeting computers had calculated her ship's movement, her likely escape routes, and the exact point where the projectiles would intersect with her hull. Physics doesn't care about experience or skill. The first slug hit the Diamond, Edge's rear section punching through the crystalline armor like it was made of glass. The impact created a hole 3 meters wide and sent shock waves through the entire ship. Emergency alarms screamed as atmosphere began venting into space. The second projectile hit the ship's middle section, where the main power conduits ran. Thousands of years of Valerian engineering and advanced crystal technology were destroyed in a split second as tons of depleted uranium traveling at relativistic speed tore through delicate energy systems. The third slug hit the ship's command section. Commander Zexrin had just enough time to realize that her beautiful ship was dying around her before the bridge exploded and her life ended. On the Crimson Dominance, Admiral Vextar watched another of his ships die and felt something he had never experienced before: pure terror. His species had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated every enemy they had ever faced. But this was different. This was like fighting a force of nature. "Admiral," Science Officer Krellhan called out, her voice breaking with fear. "I'm beginning to understand their technology. It's not primitive at all. It's just completely different from ours." "Explain," Vextar ordered, though part of him didn't want to know. "We've spent thousands of years learning to manipulate energy in quantum fields. We build weapons that use exotic particles and strange matter. But these humans, they've perfected the use of basic physics." She brought up a display showing the human ship's weapon systems. "Look at their rail guns. They're incredibly simple devices that use magnetic fields to accelerate solid projectiles. But they've made them so powerful that the projectiles move at 15% of light speed." "So what?" demanded Commander Thexnall. "We have energy shields. We have quantum barriers." "That's just it," Krellhan said desperately. "Our shields are designed to deflect energy and exotic particles. They're not designed to stop solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. It's like trying to stop a meteor with a force field designed to block radio waves." The truth was even worse than she realized. Human weapons weren't just different. They were specifically designed to counter the exact type of defenses that most spacefaring civilizations used. Energy shields were common in the galaxy because energy weapons were common, but kinetic weapons were rare because most species had moved beyond such primitive technology. Humans had never moved beyond it. They had perfected it. "8 ships down," reported the tactical officer. "4 remaining, including ourselves." Another explosion lit up space as the cruiser Golden Spear suffered the same fate as its sisters. The ship's captain had tried to use his vessel's superior speed to escape the kill zone, but the humans had anticipated this. Their particle beam weapons reached out across hundreds of thousands of kilometers and carved the fleeing ship into glowing pieces. On the UNS Indomitable, navigator Kim Da-yoon was tracking the remaining enemy ships with professional efficiency. "3 targets left, Captain. They're trying to group together for a final attack." Captain Lee studied the tactical display. The remaining Valerian ships were moving into a tight formation, probably hoping that combined firepower might be able to damage his ship. "Let them come," he said calmly. "Jin-Ho, prepare a full spread of nuclear torpedoes. Let's end this quickly." "Park." Jin-Ho's hands moved over his weapons controls with practiced ease. "Torpedoes armed and ready, Captain. Fusion warheads, 10 kiloton yield each. Fire when ready." 6 nuclear torpedoes launched from the Indomitable's hull, their engines burning bright as they accelerated toward the Valerian formation. Each torpedo was guided by its own AI system and carried enough explosive power to level a city. The Valerians saw them coming and tried to shoot them down with their energy weapons. Brilliant beams of quantum energy reached out to destroy the incoming missiles, and several torpedoes exploded harmlessly in space. But humans had been fighting with nuclear weapons for over a century. The torpedoes were designed to survive defensive fire, and enough of them got through. The cruiser Azure Wind was the first to die. 2 nuclear warheads detonated against its hull within seconds of each other. The ship's crystalline armor, which could deflect energy weapons and resist quantum disruptors, simply vaporized under the intense heat and radiation of nuclear fusion. "This is madness," whispered Commander Thexnall as he watched another ship die. "Who uses nuclear weapons in space combat?" "Humans do," Admiral Vextar replied grimly. He was beginning to understand something terrible about the species they had attacked. These weren't just aliens with different technology. These were beings who had turned war into a science. The destroyer Violet Storm tried to ram the human ship in a desperate final attack. Its captain, Sub-Commander Felnox pushed his engines to maximum power and aimed his vessel directly at the strange metal warship that was destroying his fleet. He never had a chance. The Indomitable's point defense systems came online, filling space with streams of high-velocity projectiles. Thousands of small railgun rounds, each one moving at tremendous speed, tore the Violet Storm apart before it could get within ramming distance. 2 ships remaining, reported Tactical Officer Yoon Tae-ho. The flagship and 1 escort. Lee looked at the tactical display. The 2 surviving Valerian ships were still trying to fight, their energy weapons hammering uselessly against his ship's shields. It was almost pathetic. "Engineering report," he called. "Shields at 70% and holding steady," replied Shinbo Ram from deep in the ship. "Hull integrity at 100%. We can keep this up all day, Captain." That was the difference between human and Valerian engineering. The aliens had built beautiful ships with elegant weapons and sophisticated defenses, but humans had built their ships to fight and survive. Every system had backups. Every critical component was protected by thick armor. Every weapon was designed to kill enemies efficiently. The Valerian escort ship, a destroyer called Crimson Talon, made one last desperate attack run. Its captain fired every weapon the ship had while diving directly toward the human vessel. Park. Jin-Ho destroyed it with a single railgun shot. The 3-ton projectile hit the destroyer's nose and traveled the entire length of the ship, tearing through every compartment and system before exiting through the rear engine section. The ship broke apart like a toy. 1 target remaining, Yoon reported. The flagship is still operational but severely damaged. Lee looked at the final Valerian ship on his screen. It was larger than the others and still dangerous, but it was alone. Its fleet was gone. Its weapons were barely scratching his hull, and it had nowhere to run. "Open communications," he ordered. "Let's see if they want to surrender." But even as he said it, Lee knew that the battle was already over. In less than 15 minutes, his single ship had destroyed 11 advanced alien warships. The survivors, if there were any, would carry word back to their empire about what happened here. They would tell other aliens that humanity had arrived in space and that humans didn't fight the way other species fought. They would spread the word that attacking human ships was a fatal mistake. The age of humanity in space had begun with the complete destruction of an entire alien fleet. It was not the peaceful first contact that many had hoped for, but it was the kind of first contact that would make other species think twice before attacking human vessels. Admiral Vextar looked around his damaged bridge and realized that his Empire's first encounter with humanity would also be their last lesson in human warfare. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display in complete shock. The alien ship should have been destroyed. Their quantum disruptor beams had hit it perfectly, 12 direct hits that should have turned any ship into floating dust. But the strange metal vessel was still there, and its strange energy barriers had absorbed their most powerful weapons like they were nothing. "What happened?" he demanded, his 4 arms moving frantically over his control panels. "Why is that ship still there?" Commander Thexanol was equally confused. His scaled face had turned a pale color as he checked and rechecked his readings. "Admiral, our weapons definitely hit the target. Direct impacts across their entire hull. But their shields? I've never seen anything like them." Science Officer Krelhan was working furiously at her station, trying to understand what had just happened. "Sir, the energy readings from their defensive systems don't match anything in our databases. It's like they're using completely different science." "That's impossible," Vextar snapped. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Our quantum disruptors can crack planets. How did some primitive ship with metal plates stop our attack?" The answer came faster than any of them expected. The human ship, which had been floating quietly in space while they tried to figure out what went wrong, suddenly came alive with activity. "Admiral," shouted Lieutenant Pextor from the weapons station, "the alien vessel is powering up weapons systems. I'm reading massive energy buildups across their hull." "What kind of weapons?" Vextar asked, But even as he spoke, he could see new contacts appearing on his tactical display. Dozens of small objects were launching from the human ship, moving toward his fleet at incredible speed. "I don't understand these readings," Krellhan reported in a voice full of fear. "They're not energy weapons, they're solid objects, moving at tremendous velocity." Vextar felt a chill run through his body. Solid objects? Who used solid objects as weapons? That was like fighting with rocks and sticks. "How fast are they moving?" Thexnall asked. 15% of light speed, Krellhan whispered. "And accelerating." The first railgun projectile hit the Valerian destroyer Crystal Blade before anyone could react. The depleted uranium slug, weighing 3 tons and moving at nearly 50,000 kilometers per second, struck the ship's crystalline hull like the fist of an angry god. The crystal blade simply vanished. One moment it was a beautiful warship, with glowing energy channels and graceful curves. The next moment there was nothing but an expanding cloud of glittering debris and superheated gas. "By the crystal gods," someone whispered on the bridge, "of the Crimson Dominance." But there was no time to think about what had just happened. More projectiles were incoming, and the human ship was launching even more weapons. Bright streaks of energy began cutting through space as particle beam weapons, locked onto Valerian targets. "Evasive maneuvers," Vextar commanded. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace." "We can't, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. "Something is interfering with our jump drives. We're trapped in normal space." Another Valerian ship, the Sapphire Strike, tried to dodge the incoming projectiles. The ship was fast, and its pilot was skilled, but physics doesn't care about skill. The railgun slugs were moving too fast to avoid, and their targeting systems were too accurate to fool. 3 projectiles hit the Sapphire Strike within milliseconds of each other. The first one punched through the ship's shields like they weren't there. The second one tore through the crystalline armor plating. The third one hit the ship's power core, and the entire vessel exploded in a ball of blue fire. "This is impossible," Thexnall said, his voice shaking. "How are they destroying our ships so easily? Our shields are designed to stop any known weapon." "They're not using known weapons," Krellhan replied, her own voice full of terror. "They're using kinetic energy, pure physics. Mass times velocity equals destruction." On the bridge of the UNS Indomitable, Captain Lee watched the battle with cold satisfaction. His crew was working with smooth efficiency, years of training showing in every movement. "Target destroyed," reported Park Jin-ho from the weapons station. "Moving to next target. Railgun batteries reloaded and ready." 2 enemy ships down," added Tactical Officer Yoon Tae-ho. 10 remaining. They're trying to run, but our interdiction mines are working. They can't jump to hyperspace." Lee nodded approvingly. Interdiction mines were one of humanity's clever inventions. They created artificial gravity wells that prevented faster-than-light travel in a large area around them. Any ship that wanted to escape would have to fly out of the affected zone first, and that took time. "Keep firing," Lee ordered. "Don't give them a chance to reorganize." The Indomitable's weapon systems were designed by humans who understood war, railguns that could throw projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, particle beams that could cut through any known material, nuclear torpedoes for when you absolutely needed something dead. But the most important thing was that human weapons were simple. They worked on basic physics that couldn't be stopped or fooled. Kinetic energy, electromagnetic force, nuclear fusion. These were the fundamental forces of the universe, and humans had learned to use them all. Another Valerian ship, the Emerald Fury, tried to fight back. Its energy weapons lashed out at the human vessel, but the Indomitable's shields absorbed the attack easily. Human shield technology was designed to stop kinetic projectiles, which meant it could handle energy weapons too. "Their weapons are barely scratching our hull," reported Engineering Chief Shin Bo-ram from deep in the ship. "Whatever they're using, it's not designed to fight our kind of technology." "Return fire," Lee commanded. The Emerald Fury died like all the others. Railgun slugs traveling at relativistic speeds don't care how pretty your ship is or how advanced your energy systems are. When several tons of metal hit your hull at 15% of light speed, the laws of physics take over, and your ship stops existing. 7 ships down, Yoon reported. 5 remaining. They're spreading out, trying to make themselves harder to hit. It won't work, Park Jin-ho said grimly as he targeted the next Valerian vessel. Our targeting computers can track individual dust particles at this range. Ships are easy. On the Valerian flagship, Admiral Vextar was beginning to understand that his fleet was doomed. The human ship was destroying his vessels one by one, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. His weapons couldn't penetrate their defenses, and their weapons were unstoppable. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. 7, Thexnell replied in a broken voice. "More than half our fleet. Admiral, we need to retreat." "We can't retreat. The gravity wells are still active. We're trapped here until that ship lets us go." "Then we're all going to die," whispered Krelhan. Vextar realized she was right. In less than 10 minutes, his powerful fleet had been reduced to scattered debris and fleeing survivors. The humans had done something no species had ever managed before. They had defeated Valerian technology with what appeared to be primitive weapons. But they weren't primitive, he understood now. They were just different. While the Valerians had spent thousands of years perfecting energy manipulation and crystal technology, the humans had learned to use the basic forces of physics as weapons. And physics always wins in the end. Another ship exploded in the distance, bringing his fleet down to 4 survivors. Captain Lee Hyun-woo stood in the center of the bridge aboard the UNS Indomitable. The bridge was not beautiful, like alien ships in movies. It was built for war, with thick metal walls and heavy blast doors. Every surface was covered with screens, buttons, and control panels. The lights were bright white, making everything look sharp and clear. Lee was 42 years old and had been fighting in space for most of his adult life. His black hair was cut short in military style, and his uniform was clean, but showed signs of long use. He had calm eyes that missed nothing, and when he spoke, his crew always listened. "Status report," he said in a steady voice. Navigator Kim Da-yoon looked up from her station. She was 28 and one of the best pilots in the human fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls as she checked their position. "We're right where we're supposed to be, Captain. Outer Rim Patrol, Sector 7. All systems are working normally." "Good. Any sign of other ships?" "Not yet, sir, but our long-range sensors are picking up some strange readings about 2 hours away at current speed." Lee nodded and walked over to the weapons station. Park Jin-ho sat there, a big man with strong hands and serious eyes. He had been Lee's weapons officer for 3 years, and the captain trusted him completely. "How are our weapons, Jin-ho?" "All systems ready, Captain. Railguns loaded and charged, particle beams at full power, nuclear torpedoes armed and ready to launch. If we run into trouble, we can handle it." The UNS Indomitable was humanity's newest and most powerful warship. It was 800 meters long and built like a floating fortress. The hull was made from layers of special metals that could stop almost any attack. Inside, it carried enough weapons to destroy a small fleet. "Captain," called communications specialist Choi Min-seo from her station near the back of the bridge. She was young but very good at her job. "I'm getting something on long-range communications. It's not human." Lee felt his heart beat a little faster. First contact with alien life was what every space captain dreamed about and feared at the same time. Humanity had been exploring space for over 100 years, but they had never found another intelligent species. "What kind of signal?" he asked. "It's coming from the same direction as those strange sensor readings. The signal is very powerful, like it's coming from multiple sources. Big ships, Captain." Lee walked to the center of the bridge where the main tactical display showed a 3-dimensional map of local space. Red dots appeared on the screen, moving toward their position. Tactical Officer Yoon Tai-ho, what do you see? Yoon was 35 and had fought in the Mars Rebellion 10 years earlier. He knew space combat better than almost anyone in the fleet. His dark eyes studied the display carefully. 12 contacts, Captain. They're big, probably warships, moving in formation toward our position. Distance, about 90 minutes at their current speed. 12 ships? Lee thought about this. Humans usually traveled in groups of 3 or 4 ships for safety. 12 ships together meant either a very important mission or preparation for a big fight. Are they trying to communicate with us? He asked Choi Min-seo. Yes, sir. I'm receiving what looks like mathematical sequences and simple pictures, basic shapes, numbers, that kind of thing. I think they're trying to establish peaceful contact. Lee felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. If the aliens were sending math and pictures, they probably wanted to talk, not fight. Send back the same kind of signal. Show them we understand and want to communicate too. Yes, sir. Sending. Standard first contact protocols now. The bridge became quiet as everyone focused on their jobs. This was the moment humans had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. Contact with another intelligent species could change everything. Captain, said Engineering Chief Shin Bo-ram over the communication system. Her voice came from deep inside the ship where she controlled the engines and power systems. All systems are running perfectly. If you need full power for anything, we're ready. Thank you, Bo-ram. Keep everything ready just in case. Lee had served with Bo-ram for 5 years. She was the best engineer he had ever known, and she could make the ship do things that seemed impossible. If something went wrong, she would keep them alive. Captain, Yoon said quietly, the alien ships are changing course. They're moving to surround us. Lee looked at the tactical display again. The red dots were spreading out in a pattern he recognized from military training. It was an attack formation. That doesn't look friendly, Park Jin-ho said from his weapons station. Maybe it's just their normal way of approaching unknown ships, Lee replied, but he didn't really believe it. His military experience told him that 12 ships moving to surround one ship usually meant trouble. Choi, are they still sending peaceful signals? Yes, Captain. Still sending math and pictures. But the signals are getting weaker, like they're not paying attention to communications anymore. Lee made a decision that could affect the future of humanity. All stations, go to yellow alert. Weapons ready, but do not target anything yet. Shields to full power. Warning lights began flashing yellow throughout the ship. The crew moved faster, checking their equipment and preparing for possible combat. But Lee hoped it wouldn't come to that. Maybe they're just being careful, suggested Kim Da-yoon. If I saw a strange ship, I might want to surround it too, just to be safe. Maybe, Lee said, but his gut feeling told him something different. Captain, Yoon reported, they've completed their formation. We're surrounded. Distance, 30,000 kilometers and closing. That was very close in space combat terms. Close enough that weapons would be very accurate. Still no hostile actions, Park Jin-ho reported. But if they have weapons like ours, they're close enough to do serious damage. Lee stood in the center of his bridge and looked at his crew. These were good people trained for exactly this situation. Whatever happened next, they would handle it professionally. Choi, send one more message. Tell them we come in peace and want to establish friendly relations between our species. Sending now, Captain. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft sounds of computers and life support systems. Everyone waited to see what the aliens would do next. Then space around the Indomitable exploded with brilliant light. Energy weapons, shouted Yoon. Multiple impacts on our shields. The ship shook as 12 powerful beams hit them at the same time. Emergency lights flashed red as the shields absorbed the massive energy attack. Damage report, Lee commanded. Shields, down to 85%, reported Shin Bo-ram from engineering. Hull intact, no serious damage. Lee felt cold anger replace his hopes for peaceful contact. The aliens had waited for them to get close, surrounded them, and then attacked without warning. This was not first contact. This was an ambush. All stations, red alert. Target all hostile vessels. The bridge lights turned red as the ship prepared for war. This wasn't how Lee had wanted humanity's first meeting with aliens to go, but he would protect his ship and crew. "Captain," Park Jin-ho said with grim satisfaction, "weapons ready. Targeting solutions locked on all 12 ships. Fire." Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dominance. The massive warship moved through space like a floating crystal palace. Its walls glowed with soft blue light that came from energy flowing through special channels built into the ship's structure. The bridge was huge, with tall ceilings and wide windows that showed the endless darkness of space filled with distant stars. Vextar was tall, even for his species. His skin had a gray color with small scales that caught the light. His forearms moved with smooth grace as he checked different control panels around his command chair. The chair itself was made from a rare crystal that could read his thoughts and help him control the ship faster than any normal computer. The Valerian Empire had ruled this part of space for over 3,000 years. Their ships were the most advanced in the galaxy. They had weapons that could turn energy into deadly beams and shields that could stop almost any attack. No other species had ever beaten them in a real fight. "Admiral," called Commander Thexanol from his station near the main screen, "our long-range sensors are picking up something strange." Vextar turned his large head toward his second-in-command. Thexanol was younger than the Admiral, but he had proven himself in many battles against other alien species that had tried to challenge Valerian power. "What kind of strange?" Vexatar asked, his voice deep and commanding. "There's a ship coming, toward our patrol area. It's not like anything in our computer files. The design is very different from what we usually see." The main screen changed to show a long-distance view of space. In the center, a small dot moved slowly toward their position. The computer worked to get a better picture, and soon they could see more details. "By the crystal gods," whispered Science Officer Krelhan from her station. "Look at that thing." The ship on the screen looked nothing like Valerian vessels. Where their ships were smooth and flowing like living creatures, this one was all straight lines and sharp angles. It looked like someone had taken metal blocks and stuck them together without caring how pretty it looked. "It's so ugly," laughed Lieutenant Pextor from the weapons station. "Who builds ships that look like metal boxes?" Vextar studied the strange vessel with growing amusement. The ship was maybe half the size of their smallest destroyer, but it looked much heavier. Instead of the smooth, glowing surfaces of Valerian ships, this one was covered in thick plates of some kind of metal. There were no visible energy channels or crystal arrays. "What do our computers say about their technology?" Vextar asked. Krelhan worked at her controls for several minutes before answering. "It's very strange, Admiral. I can't find any energy signatures that match our databases. No quantum field generators, no crystal power sources, no plasma conduits. It's like they're using completely different technology." "Primitive technology," corrected Thexanol with a sneer. "Look at it. Metal plates bolted together like some ancient construction project. They probably still use chemical fuel or something equally backward." The other officers on the bridge began to laugh. The idea that someone would challenge the Valerian Empire with such a crude-looking ship was funny to them. "How many crew members do you think it has?" asked Pextor, still chuckling. "Maybe a few hundred at most," guessed Krelhan. "It's not very big, and with that primitive design, they probably need lots of space for basic life support systems." Vextar nodded slowly. This was exactly the kind of situation he had been hoping for. The Empire was always looking for new worlds to add to their collection. When they found species with useful resources or interesting technology, they would take over their planets and make the aliens work for Valerian benefit. "Sir," reported the communications officer. "They're trying to send us some kind of signal." "What kind of signal?" "It's very basic. Mathematical patterns, simple pictures, things like that. I think they're trying to make peaceful contact." This made Vextar laugh even harder. "Peaceful contact! They send one tiny ship into Valerian space and want to talk about peace." He turned to face his full crew. The bridge held over 50 Valerian officers, all of them experienced in space combat. Behind them, through the crystal walls, he could see parts of his fleet. 12 ships in total, each one capable of destroying entire cities. "Officer Krelhan, scan that ship for anything valuable. I want to know if their species has anything worth taking before we destroy them." "Yes, Admiral. Scanning now." Her long fingers moved over glowing control surfaces. "I'm detecting some interesting metal. Alloys in their hull. Very dense. Much heavier than anything we usually see. And their power source. It's giving off readings I don't understand." "Probably some kind of primitive reactor," said Thexnall. "Nuclear fusion or something equally simple." Vextar made his decision. "We'll follow standard procedure. Destroy their ship quickly, then track their course back to their home world. Once we find their planet, we can decide if their species is worth keeping as workers or if we should just take their resources." He settled back into his crystal command chair and felt it connect with his mind. Through the ship's systems, he could sense all 12 vessels in his fleet. Each one was ready for battle, their weapons charged and their shields at full power. "All ships, move to attack formation," he commanded, and his thoughts were instantly sent to every ship in the fleet. "Target the unknown vessel. Prepare for alpha strike on my command." The Valerian ships began to move with deadly grace. They spread out into their standard attack pattern, surrounding the human vessel from multiple angles. Their weapons systems came online, filling space around them with the glow of charging energy weapons. "Admiral," reported Pextor. "All ships report ready to fire. Target is locked." Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This would be over in seconds. Their quantum disruptor beams would tear through whatever primitive shields the aliens had, and their ship would be nothing but glowing particles floating in space. "Fire," he commanded. 12. Valerian warships opened fire at the same time. Beams of pure energy, each one capable of cracking a small moon, raced across space toward the strange metal ship. The attack was beautiful and terrible, filling the darkness with brilliant light. This was going to be easy.